In the vast darkness of space, the Tyche Empire ruled with an iron grip. For centuries they had conquered star system after star system, adding each to their collection like trophies. Their technology was beyond anything most species could imagine, and their warships struck fear across the galaxy. It was on a routine patrol that Captain Nam of the Tyche scout vessel, Eternal Glory, noticed something unusual. The sensors picked up energy readings from a small yellow star that nobody had bothered to explore before. "Captain, these readings are unusual," said Officer Beck, looking puzzled at his screen. "There seems to be artificial signals coming from the third planet." Captain Nam leaned forward in his command chair. "Another primitive world? Perfect. The Emperor will be pleased with a new resource planet." Their massive ship approached the blue-green world cautiously. Through their advanced telescopes, they observed the beings that called this planet home. Humans, they called themselves. The Tyche watched their cities, their vehicles, their primitive attempts at space exploration. "They're barely into their space age," laughed Captain Nam. "This will be the easiest conquest yet." But not everyone in the Tyche High Command was so dismissive. Admiral Go, one of their most experienced strategists, urged caution. "We should study them more before revealing ourselves," she suggested during the planning meeting. "Something about their development pattern is unusual." The Emperor overruled her concerns. The standard approach would work fine. Present themselves as friendly visitors, offer technological gifts, sign treaties, and then reveal their true intentions once they had established a foothold. And so, on a warm spring day, the first Tyche ships appeared in Earth's skies. Governments around the world scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called, military forces went on high alert, and in Seoul, Commander Kim Dae-ho of the Earth Defense Force watched the alien ships with deep concern. "They're too perfect," he said quietly to his assistant as they watched the first broadcast from the alien visitors. "Their translator works too well. Their promises sound too good." The Tyche ambassador, a tall being with sleek grey skin and 6 fingers on each hand, addressed the United Nations with eloquent promises of friendship and technology exchange. President Park Joo-won of South Korea, serving as the current UN Security Council president, welcomed them warmly. "This is a historic day for humanity," President Park announced to the world. "The beginning of a new era of galactic friendship." The cameras caught everything, the handshakes, the smiles, the exchange of symbolic gifts. What they didn't capture was Commander Kim's growing unease. That night, in a secure underground facility beneath Seoul, Commander Kim gathered a small team he trusted completely. "Something isn't right," he told them, his voice low despite the room being secure. "They're hiding something. I need each of you to help me find out what." His team included Dr. Han, a brilliant linguist, Major Jin, a former Special Forces operator, and Engineer O, who had a genius for understanding technology. Together they began their secret investigation while the world celebrated above. The Tyche delegation set up their embassy in a specially constructed building in Geneva. They began holding meetings with world leaders, offering medical technology that could cure diseases, energy systems that could replace fossil fuels, and transportation methods that would revolutionize travel. "They're giving us too much too quickly," Dr. Han observed after analyzing their offers. "In nature, nothing is free. They want something in return." Major Jin managed to place tiny surveillance devices near the Tyche embassy. For days, they recorded nothing unusual. The aliens seemed genuinely interested in peaceful exchange. Then, on the 4th night, Engineer O detected strange energy readings coming from the embassy. "They're scanning something," she said, pointing to her equipment. "Deep scans of Earth's crust." Commander Kim's suspicions deepened. He arranged to be part of the next diplomatic meeting, representing South Korea's military interests. Up close, he studied the Tyche ambassador carefully. "Your technology is impressive," Commander Kim said during the meeting. "But I wonder why you chose Earth specifically to make contact with." The ambassador's smile never wavered. "Your species shows great promise. We wish to help you advance." But when Commander Kim mentioned the strange energy scans, he noticed a slight change in the ambassador's eyes, a hardening, a moment of calculation. That night, Commander Kim's team made a breakthrough. Engineer O managed to hack into one of the Tyche's communication channels. What they found chilled them to the bone. "They're not here for friendship," Commander Kim told President Park in a private meeting the next morning. They're surveying Earth for mining opportunities, and according to their communications, they don't consider us intelligent enough for true diplomatic relations. President Park looked shocked. Are you certain? The technology they've offered us is just enough to keep us distracted while they establish their presence, Commander Kim finished. Sir, we need to prepare. The Taik Empire has conquered 13 other star systems. We're next. As commander. Kim left the presidential office. He received an urgent message from Dr. Han. She had discovered something in the translation of the treaty documents. There's a hidden layer in their language, she explained when they met. Words with double meanings. According to my analysis, what they're calling a cultural exchange program actually translates to resource extraction rights in their true language. Commander Kim looked out the window at the Taik ships hovering above the city, beautiful, sleek, and deadly. The citizens below took photos and gazed in wonder, unaware of the danger looming above them. We don't have much time, Commander Kim said, watching the alien vessels with narrowed eyes. We need to prepare for what comes next. For 3 months, the Taik diplomats moved through the halls of power on Earth like celebrities. They attended state dinners, toured universities, and smiled for countless photographs. Their ships remained in orbit, gleaming against the blue sky, a constant reminder of their technological superiority. But in a basement laboratory at Seoul National University, Dr. Lee Sun-mi hadn't slept properly in days. Her desk was cluttered, with coffee cups and printouts of the treaty documents. Something about the translation bothered her. The syntax doesn't match their speech patterns, she muttered to herself, comparing recordings of Ambassador Rock speaking with the written treaty. Dr. Lee had been recruited by Commander Kim after showing remarkable insights into the Taik language during the first month of contact. Late one night, as rain pattered against the windows, Dr. Lee noticed something strange. When she ran the treaty text through a specific frequency analysis, hidden patterns emerged. Oh my God, she whispered, her hand trembling as she reached for her phone. 2 hours later, Commander Kim, President Park, and Dr. Lee sat in a secured room beneath the presidential compound. The treaty isn't what they told us, Dr. Lee explained, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. There's a secondary meaning embedded in the text. The most concerning part is here. She pointed to a section that supposedly outlined cultural exchange programs. This doesn't say cultural exchange. When properly translated, it classifies humans as harvestable resources. They're not here for friendship. They're here to mine Earth and us. President Park stared at the documents in shock. Are you absolutely certain? I've verified it 3 different ways, Dr. Lee nodded. They've been lying to us from the beginning. The next morning, President Park called an emergency meeting with Ambassador Rock. Commander Kim stood in the corner of the room, watching carefully as the confrontation unfolded. We've discovered inconsistencies in the treaty translation, President Park said calmly, sliding the annotated documents across the table. Ambassador Rock's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. I see, he said finally, his voice no longer carrying its usual warmth. I had hoped this wouldn't be necessary so soon. What wouldn't be necessary? President Park asked. Ambassador Rock stood up, his tall frame suddenly seeming more menacing than elegant. Your species is remarkably stubborn. Most civilizations accept our gifts gratefully and never bother to check the fine print. So it's true. Commander Kim stepped forward. You plan to harvest Earth. The ambassador's mouth curled into something resembling a smile. Your planet has rare minerals we need. Your species would have been relocated to work camps. Some would have survived. It's more than most get. President Park's face hardened. We reject your treaty. You will leave Earth immediately. Ambassador Rock laughed, a chilling sound without humor. You misunderstand. We don't need your permission. He tapped a device on his wrist. The harvesting begins now. Before security could reach him, Ambassador Rock vanished in a flash of light, teleported back to his ship. Alarms blared throughout the building. Commander Kim rushed to the window just in time to see massive Taik warships appearing from hyperspace, joining the diplomatic vessels already in orbit. They've been waiting for this, he realized. Get to the emergency bunker now. The president was barely underground when the first attacks began. The Tyke ships fired with surgical precision, targeting military bases, defense systems, and communications centers around the world. In the Pentagon, generals watched in horror as their missile defenses were neutralized before they could even fire. In Moscow, military commanders shouted orders that couldn't be transmitted as communication networks went down. In Beijing, satellite images showed destruction spreading across their military installations. The Tyke attack was methodical and overwhelming. They expected Earth to surrender within hours. What they didn't expect was General Kang Ji-woo. General Kang had spent the last 3 months preparing for this possibility. A veteran of multiple conflicts, she had never trusted the aliens. While politicians negotiated, she had quietly dispersed troops, hidden equipment, and established backup communication systems. From her mobile command center in the mountains, General Kang received fragmented reports of the attack. They've hit every major military base, her aide reported grimly. Casualties are high. General Kang nodded, her expression grave but determined. Activate Protocol Thunderstorm. Tell all. Units to switch to emergency frequencies. Across Earth, surviving military units received coded messages. Instead of gathering for a doomed counterattack, they scattered, following pre-arranged plans. Fighter jets took off from hidden runways. Submarines dived to safer depths. Soldiers abandoned exposed positions for prepared hideouts. Above the planet, Admiral No of the Tyke fleet watched with growing confusion. Why haven't they surrendered, he demanded. We've destroyed their major defenses. His tactical officer looked puzzled. Sir, their forces are dispersing. Not retreating or surrendering, just spreading out. Admiral No frowned. Send in the ground troops. Let's finish this quickly. Tyke landing craft descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying soldiers. Confident in easy victory. They had conquered countless worlds this way. First, destroy the military. Then round up the civilians. Simple. But when they landed outside Washington, D.C., no one was there to meet them. The city seemed abandoned. Where are they? A Tyke commander asked, scanning the empty streets. The answer came in the form of carefully planned ambushes. Earth forces following General Kang's strategy allowed the Tyke to land, then attacked from hidden positions. They couldn't match the aliens' technology, but they knew their home terrain. Similar scenes played out worldwide. In the mountains of Switzerland, in the deserts of Africa, in the jungles of Southeast Asia, the pattern was the same. Let the Tyke land, then strike from where they least expect it. Admiral No watched in growing frustration as reports came. And this isn't possible, he muttered. They're primitives. How are they coordinating these attacks? On her secure communication device, General Kang received a message from Commander Kim. The president is safe. Other world leaders establishing contact. United resistance forming. General Kang allowed herself a small smile. The Tyke had expected Earth to fall in a day. They had expected surrender. Instead, they faced something they had never encountered before. A planet that refused to be conquered, and humans who would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Send word to all units, General Kang told her communications officer. Tell them this is just the beginning. 1 month into the invasion, Admiral No paced the command deck of his flagship, his patience wearing thin. The holographic display showed yet another failed operation, a Tyke unit ambushed in the ruins of Chicago. How is this happening? He demanded, slamming his fist on the console. They're using sticks and stones compared to our weapons. His second-in-command, Captain Mull, approached cautiously. Sir, we've lost contact with Unit 47. That's the 5th squad this week. The Tyke had never faced this kind of resistance before. Their standard invasion playbook, overwhelming force, swift strikes at command centers, and technological dominance, had always worked. Until Earth. On the ground, the reality was even more frustrating for Tyke forces. A patrol moved through the abandoned streets of Seoul, their advanced sensors scanning for life signs. The city had been pounded from orbit, its skyscrapers reduced to jagged teeth against the skyline, but still the humans wouldn't surrender. Movement ahead, reported a Tyke soldier, raising his energy rifle. Before he could fire, the ground beneath Their feet exploded, not with the force of primitive human explosives, but with a modified version of the Tyke's own plasma technology. The patrol never had a chance to call for backup. 10 blocks away in a hidden basement workshop, engineer Song Min-ho examined the remains of a Tyke weapon. Around him worked a team of scientists and engineers from a dozen different countries. Before the invasion, they had been competitors. Now they were humanity's best hope. The power cell configuration is the key, Song explained, carefully dismantling the alien rifle. If we reverse the polarity and add our own control module, we can use their weapons against them. Dr. Patel, a physicist from India, nodded in agreement. And their communication system, I think I've found a way to intercept their signals without them detecting us. This scene repeated itself across the planet. Humans, adaptable and creative, studied every piece of Tyke technology they could salvage. In Australian outback hideouts, European forest bunkers and African desert camps, people who had never touched advanced technology before learned to repurpose alien devices. The Tyke's greatest advantage was turning into their greatest vulnerability. Hanti. In the mountains of South Korea, Commander Yoon Hae-in established one of the largest resistance bases. Hidden beneath a false hillside, the complex housed thousands of fighters and civilians. Before the invasion, Commander Yoon had been a special forces officer known for her unorthodox tactics. Now those same tactics were keeping her people alive. Their patrols follow predictable patterns, she explained to her officers, pointing to a map covered with markers. They think in straight lines. We need to think in circles. In the command room, representatives from former enemy nations sat side by side. Russian and American Special Forces veterans planned joint operations. Chinese and Taiwanese fighters trained together. Old hatreds had been set aside in the face of extinction. We hit them here, here, and here, Commander Yoon continued. Small teams, quick strikes. Take what we can use, destroy what we can't, and disappear before their reinforcements arrive. A young lieutenant raised his hand. But their air support always comes in less than 5 minutes. Commander Yoon smiled. That's why we're working with Engineer Song's team. Show them the new toys. From a side door, Engineer Song entered, carrying what looked like modified Tyke communication devices. These will jam their distress signals for exactly 6 minutes. After that, they'll adapt. That's your window. The raids began that night. Across the Korean peninsula, small teams of resistance fighters struck at Tyke outposts. They moved like shadows through ruins and forests, using their knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the aliens. In one such raid, Commander Yoon herself led a team of 12 fighters. Their target was a Tyke research facility where captured humans were being studied. The plan was simple: free the prisoners, steal the research, and destroy the facility. They approached under cover of darkness, using Song's devices to jam Tyke. Sensors! The alien guards never saw them coming. Within minutes, the outer defenses were neutralized. Remember, Commander Yoon whispered to her team, 6 minutes only. Then we're out. Inside, they found 30 human prisoners in holding cells. As the resistance fighters led them to safety, Commander Yoon and 2 others headed for the research lab. What they found there chilled them to the bone. The Tyke weren't just studying humans, they were studying Earth itself. Detailed scans showed mining operations planned across the planet, resource extraction that would render the surface uninhabitable. Copy everything, Commander Yoon ordered, connecting a device to the Tyke computer. This changes everything. Their escape wasn't clean. A Tyke scientist raised the alarm just as they were leaving. Energy weapons fired, catching one of Commander Yoon's team in the shoulder. But they made it out, disappearing into the night with their rescued prisoners and stolen data. Back at the mountain base, as medics treated the wounded, Engineer Song reviewed the stolen information. "This is why they're here," he said grimly, showing Commander Yoon a holographic display of Earth's crust. "These minerals are rare in the galaxy. They need them for their faster-than-light drives." Commander Yoon studied the display. "Can we use this information against them?" Song nodded slowly. "Maybe. Their mining equipment has the same weaknesses as their weapons. If we can disrupt their excavation sites." Word of the successful raid spread through resistance networks. More importantly, Knowledge of the Tyke's weaknesses spread. Engineer Song's modifications to alien technology were reproduced in resistance bases around the world. For the first time, humans had a fighting chance. Admiral No received the report of the raid with cold fury. How did they know about the research facility? How did they jam our communications? No one on his command staff had answers. The humans were supposed to be primitive, easy to conquer. Instead, they were proving to be the most difficult species the Tyke had ever encountered. They adapt too quickly, Captain Mull observed. Every time we change our tactics, they change theirs faster. Admiral No glared at the holographic display of Earth. His fleet still controlled the skies. His forces still had superior technology. But somehow these humans were making that advantage mean less each day. Call for reinforcements, he ordered, finally, and prepare for a full planetary assault. No more surgical strikes. If they won't surrender, we'll make this planet uninhabitable for them. What Admiral No didn't understand, what the Tyke Empire had never understood, was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their spirit, their refusal to surrender, even when faced with impossible odds. And as resistance fighters around the world prepared for the coming assault, that spirit only grew stronger. 6 months after the Tyke ships first darkened Earth's skies, Supreme Commander Bak stood before the holographic war table, his face tight with frustration. The glowing map of Earth showed red dots representing Tyke strongholds and blue areas marking human resistance territories. There was far too much blue. This makes no sense, Bak muttered, zooming in on North America. We destroyed their satellites. We took down their communications networks. We control their major cities. So how are they still coordinating attacks across continents? His intelligence officer, a seasoned veteran of 12 planetary conquests, looked equally puzzled. Sir, they're using methods we can't track. Couriers on foot, old radio technology, even paper messages. It's primitive but effective. Bak had replaced Admiral No 3 months ago after the humiliating defeat at the Battle of Sydney. He'd arrived expecting to crush the human resistance within weeks. Instead, he found a military quagmire unlike anything in Tyke history. Show me the latest attack, Bak ordered. The hologram shifted to display footage from a Tyke mining operation in the Canadian Rockies. The facility had been state-of-the-art, protected by energy shields and automated defense systems. Yet somehow, a small team of humans had infiltrated it, planted explosives at exactly the right locations, and disappeared before the charges detonated. 27 Tyke soldiers dead, equipment worth millions destroyed, the intelligence officer reported. The humans suffered no casualties. Bak slammed his fist on the table. They're nothing, barely spacefaring. How are they doing this? What Bak couldn't understand was exactly what made humans different from the other species the Tyke had conquered. In a hidden laboratory beneath the ruins of Seoul, Dr. Choi Jae-sung was demonstrating that difference. The Tyke shields operate on a predictable frequency, Dr. Choi explained to a room of engineers and fighters. Despite the constant danger, his voice was calm, his hands steady as he dismantled a captured Tyke shield generator. They never expected anyone to analyze and counter their technology. That's their weakness. Arrogance. A former car mechanic raised his hand. But how do we get close enough to use this knowledge? Their sensors can detect us from miles away. Dr. Choi smiled and held up what looked like a modified watch. That's where this comes in. It doesn't block their sensors. It feeds them false data. They'll see what we want them to see. This scene played out in hidden labs across the planet. Humans from all walks of life, professors working alongside farmers, teenagers helping grandparents, pooled their knowledge and creativity. They approached problems from angles the Tyke never considered. In London, former rivals from competing tech companies worked together to hack Tyke drones. In Rio de Janeiro, carnival costume makers designed camouflage that could fool alien sensors. In Nairobi, wildlife trackers taught resistance fighters how to move undetected through terrain the Tyke thought they controlled. Far from these hidden bases, in orbit above Earth, Bak received disturbing news. Another supply convoy ambushed. His logistics officer reported. That's the third this week. The humans somehow knew exactly when and where it would land. Back stared out the viewport at the blue planet below. "We have to have a traitor. No primitive species could be this effective against us." "Sir," the officer hesitated, "intelligence suggests it's not a traitor. The humans are adapting. They're learning our technology, our tactics, faster than any species we've encountered." "Impossible," Back snapped. But doubt had crept into his voice. On the other side of the world, Commander Kim Dae-ho met with resistance leaders in a bunker beneath the Himalayas. Representatives from 20 countries sat around a makeshift table, studying maps and reports. "Dr. Choi's team has given us the edge we needed," Commander Kim said. "Their shield disruptors work. Their sensor jammers work. For the first time, we can hit them where it really hurts." General Kang, her face now bearing a scar from a close encounter with a Tyke patrol, nodded in agreement. "My forces are ready, but we need to coordinate globally. If we strike in only one region, they'll simply redirect forces." A British naval commander leaned forward. "My submarine fleet can target their underwater mining operations. The Russians can hit their Arctic base. The Chinese can take out their command center in Shanghai. And my team will strike their main processing facility in Kenya," added an African resistance leader, all simultaneously. Commander Kim studied their faces, determined, exhausted, but unbroken. 6 months of occupation had not dimmed their resolve. If anything, it had strengthened it. "This will be the largest coordinated attack since the invasion," he said quietly. "If it works, we show them that nowhere on Earth is safe for them." The plan was set in motion. Using Dr. Choi's technology and General Kang's tactics, resistance forces prepared for simultaneous strikes across the globe. The planning took weeks, with messengers traveling dangerous routes to ensure every team had the latest intelligence. What the humans didn't know was that Back had finally convinced the Tyke High Command that more forces were needed. A reinforcement. Fleet was on its way, ships carrying troops and weapons in numbers that would overwhelm even the most determined resistance. The night before the global attack, Commander Kim couldn't sleep. He stood outside the bunker, looking up at stars partially, obscured by Tyke ships. Commander Yoon found him there. "Having doubts?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not about tomorrow. About what comes after. Even if we win every battle planned, they can still bring in more ships, more troops." "One problem at a time," Commander Yoon replied. "Tomorrow, we show them what humans can do when pushed too far." The attacks began at dawn, coordinated to the second despite the lack of global communications. In the Arctic, Russian fighters used captured Tyke weapons to bring down the shields of a major research base. In the Pacific, submarines launched modified torpedoes that disrupted the energy signatures of underwater mining operations. Across Africa, Europe, and Asia, resistance forces struck at Tyke facilities with precision and determination. In his orbital command center, Back watched in horror as red warning lights bloomed across the holographic display. "How is this happening?" he shouted. "How are they attacking everywhere at once?" His tactical officer had no answer. The impossible was happening before their eyes. Whole species that should have been conquered in days was systematically dismantling the occupation force that had subjugated dozens of worlds. As reports of Tyke casualties poured in, Back finally began to understand what made humans different. It wasn't just their adaptability or creativity. It was something deeper, a stubborn refusal to accept defeat, a willingness to sacrifice for strangers, an ability to find hope in the darkest moments. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted his thoughts, "the reinforcement fleet has arrived. They're requesting landing coordinates." Back looked down at Earth, where his forces were retreating from one battlefield after another. For the first time in his career, he wondered if even reinforcements would be enough. "Tell them to prepare for heavy resistance," he said finally. "These humans, they're unlike anything we've faced before." The Tyke reinforcement fleet emerged from hyperspace in an impressive display of power. 12 massive battleships, 30 support cruisers, and hundreds of fighter craft took position above Earth. From his command ship, Grand Admiral Tu surveyed the blue planet with cold confidence. "Status report," Tu ordered, expecting to hear about human resistance crumbling under Tyke might. Instead, His communications officer looked up with confusion. "Sir, we're receiving distress signals from Commander Bak's forces all over the planet." Grand Admiral Tu frowned. "Put Commander Bak on screen." When Bak's face appeared, Tu was shocked by what he saw. The commander looked exhausted, his usually immaculate uniform disheveled. Behind him, alarms flashed on his command deck. "Grand Admiral," Bak began, "the situation is complicated. The humans have—" A massive explosion rocked Bak's ship, cutting the transmission. Tu turned to his tactical officer. "What just happened?" "Unknown, sir. Some kind of energy pulse targeted their shield generators specifically. On Earth, in a reinforced bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Kim Dae-ho, recently promoted to Admiral by the Unified Earth Government, watched the arrival of the Tyche reinforcements on a repurposed alien monitor." "Right on schedule," he noted calmly. "Is Dr. Choi's team ready?" Beside him, General Kang nodded. All units in position. The pulse cannon worked perfectly on Bak's command ship. Admiral Kim turned to face the assembled leaders of Earth's resistance. 6 months of brutal warfare had changed them all. They bore scars, both visible and hidden, but their eyes showed something the Tyche could never understand: determination born from defending home and family. "This is the moment we've prepared for," Admiral Kim said. "They think they've brought overwhelming force. Let's show them what humans do when cornered." Around the world, resistance fighters moved into final positions. In orbit, disguised satellites, remnants of Earth's space program modified with Tyche technology, shifted to targeting positions. Dr. Choi's voice came through the communication system. "Pulse cannons charged at all locations. Ready on your mark, Admiral." Admiral Kim took a deep breath. "For Earth, fire." Across the planet, massive energy pulses shot upward toward the Tyche fleet. The technology, a hybrid of human ingenuity and repurposed alien components, was specifically calibrated to disrupt Tyche shield frequencies. In space, Grand Admiral Tu watched in disbelief as shield after shield failed across his fleet. Impossible! How could primitives develop this level of technology? His weapons officer shouted, "Sir, they're targeting our engines next. We need to—" Another series of pulses hit the fleet, this time disabling propulsion systems on multiple ships. Tyche vessels began drifting helplessly in orbit. "Launch all fighters," Tu ordered. "Deploy ground forces immediately." But as Tyche fighters swarmed from the larger ships, they encountered another surprise. Earth's atmosphere was suddenly filled with small, agile craft, human jets modified with Tyche technology. The human pilots flew with a reckless courage that baffled the Tyche, executing maneuvers that seemed suicidal, but somehow worked. On the ground, Tyche landing parties found themselves ambushed the moment they touched down. Every trick, every tactic the humans had learned over 6 months of resistance was deployed at once. In his command center, Admiral Kim received updates from around the world. London reports Tyche forces retreating. Beijing has secured the landing zone. Cairo has captured 3 intact Tyche shuttles. For the first time since the invasion began, genuine hope filled the room. General Kang allowed herself a small smile. They never understood what they were facing, did they? No, Admiral Kim agreed. They saw our technology and thought we were primitive. They never considered that technology isn't everything. As the battle raged, Dr. Choi entered the command center with urgent news. "Admiral, we've done it. We've managed to breach their fleet communications system. We can transmit directly to Grand Admiral Tu's ship." Admiral Kim's expression hardened with resolve. "Put me through." Aboard his crippled flagship, Grand Admiral Tu was trying to organize a counterattack when the main screen activated unexpectedly. The face of a human appeared. Admiral Kim, though Tu didn't know his name. "Tyche Fleet," Admiral Kim began, his voice steady. "Your position is compromised. Your ground forces are defeated. Your supply lines are cut. I offer you one chance to end this conflict without further bloodshed." Tu laughed bitterly. "You offer us? Do you know who we are? The Tyche Empire spans galaxies." "This is but one fleet of hundreds." Admiral Kim remained calm. "And yet this one fleet is being defeated by a planet you considered primitive. Consider what that means for your empire's future." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Tu's face. Admiral Kim continued, "I propose a meeting. You and your senior officers, me and Earth's leadership, to discuss terms. Terms? You expect the Tyche Empire to negotiate with primitives? I expect intelligent beings to recognize reality, Admiral, Kim replied. Your choice, Grand Admiral. Negotiate or we continue to dismantle your fleet piece by piece. 24 hours later, in the rebuilt United Nations chamber in Geneva, the most remarkable diplomatic meeting in human history took place. Grand Admiral Tu and his staff, under heavy guard, faced Admiral Kim and representatives from every continent. Here are our terms, Admiral Kim said, sliding a tablet across the table. The Tyche Empire will recognize Earth as a sovereign and protected world. All Tyche forces will withdraw immediately. Knowledge of all Tyche technology will remain with Earth, and the Tyche will provide reparations for the damage caused. Tu read the terms with growing disbelief. This is unprecedented. No species has ever dictated terms to the Tyche before. No species has ever beaten you before, General Kang pointed out. There's always a first time. Tu looked around the room, studying the human faces. How did you do it? Your technology was centuries behind ours. Admiral Kim leaned forward. Because technology isn't everything. You had better ships, better weapons, better shields, but we had something you couldn't. Measure or understand. The will to protect what we love. The treaty was signed the next day. As Tyche ships prepared to leave Earth's orbit, their databases updated with a new entry about humanity. The final line, written by Grand Admiral Tu himself, read, "The humans of Earth approach with extreme caution. They know nothing of power, until you threaten what they love." In the months that followed, Earth began to rebuild. Using the technology they had gained, humans repaired their cities and strengthened their defenses. United by the experience of fighting together, old enemies became allies, working toward a common future. 1 year after the invasion, Admiral Kim stood on a hillside overlooking the rebuilt Seoul. Beside him, Dr. Choi and General Kang watched. As a new type of ship, human-built but incorporating Tyche technology, prepared for its first flight to Mars. "Do you think they'll come back?" Dr. Choi asked quietly. Admiral Kim shook his head. "No, they'll warn others about us. The galaxy will know that Earth is not to be trifled with." General Kang smiled. "And if they do come back, then they'll find us even stronger," Admiral Kim finished. "Because that's what humans do. We learn, we adapt, we overcome." As the new ship rose into the blue sky, carrying the first of many human expeditions beyond their solar system, Admiral Kim felt a sense of pride unlike anything before. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, and emerged not just victorious but transformed. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now represented opportunity instead of threat. And somewhere out there, the Tyche Empire had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating a species that refused to surrender, no matter the odds.